Good morning, MouseHunt. Welcome to Feedback Friday, May the 6th, 2016. I'm launching myself a year into the future, apparently. How's everybody doing in the chat? On this fine day, we have some nice weather going. The sun's coming in the window. It's nice here in Toronto this morning. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking, Dennis. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hello. I am a little late. I had some trouble signing in to YouTube. I had to get a confirmation code sent to my phone, which was a little slow to arrive. Good morning. It's raining in New York. It's too hot in Singapore. We are able to do an international weather forecast right here by just asking mouse hunters in the chat. Well, today we have a few things. We have a quick announcement to do about something coming next week. A little behind the scenes. We're going to do a little bit of a preview of not quite a preview, but we're going to talk about the Froma Rift a little bit, as that's what's been on our plate recently. A big juicy feedback question as well this week. A whole lot of stuff about crafting. So if you have any thoughts on crafting, get those up into the forefront of your mind. And then, as usual, a reward link, a trivia question, and Larry has rewards. So first, quick announcement. The walls of the labyrinth have been shifting in strange but familiar ways. Another Labyrinth Puzzle Box event is just around the corner. Another Labyrinth Puzzle Box event will start Monday, May 9th, and it'll last for just 1 week. So a little bit of a heads up to maybe get into position. If you're currently in the Labyrinth, you might want to be in a different spot. If you haven't done one before, during the Puzzle Box event, you'll recover 6 lost puzzle pieces from Fealty, Scholar, Tech, Hallways, and Districts. So you can do it in both the Labyrinth and Zocor. And once you recover all 6 pieces, you can open up the Mystery Puzzle Box, which will contain the Amazing Aura, granting +5 luck to your trap in Labyrinth and Zocor, an increased chance of preventing dead-end clues, and double special loot drops from the district leaders, which is the Power Core Hammer, the Scholar Scroll, and not Plates of Fealty, the Imbued Plate, maybe? I'm failing on my trivia, the names of those 3 items that you get from the district leaders. So that will start Monday at about the same time this broadcast is going. That's 11 o'clock my time. So you can look at when this broadcast started if you want a rough estimate of when it'll start. It will go for 1 week until the following Monday as well. Some excitement in the chat. Infused plate. Thank you, Ryan. It is an infused plate. Some people are working on crafting the Minotaur base. I'm working on that as well. They'll have a pretty good little stash of keys built up. So we'll help make some headway. Before the Froma Rift comes, if there's a few loose ends you're trying to tie up in the Labyrinth, a little puzzle box event, although a short one, will help a little bit as well. Which brings us to behind the scenes, which is all about the Froma Rift. We've been sort of all hands on deck working on the Froma Rift. It's pretty well been our sole focus in the short term, or recently. All the mice and most of the items are done. Our main focus now is on playtesting it. We've been playing through it quite a bit. Pulling together the heads-up display as well, which is quite a big task. I mean, as I speak, Jacob and Andrew are working on the heads-up display, and actually Derek is working on the heads-up display for the mobile apps as well. So we're pulling together all of the heads-up display. It's a bit of a doozy. There's a little bit going on. There's quite a few types of cheese as well, so there's a lot of little buttons to arm your different types of cheese, because similar to Froma, there's several types of cheese to explore. The Froma Rift will be a single hunting location, so it'll be a little bit different from its real-world counterpart in that it is not split up into multiple locations. You'll hunt either inside or outside of the pagoda. So sort of the theme is all about the pagoda, which is that tall tower in Froma. However, the mist inside the pagoda itself is too thick for hunters to be able to breathe. So as we've hinted at before, you'll need to employ trusty droid technology to construct a combat-capable droid to carry your trap into the pagoda to do your hunting for you, where you could remain with a little remote controller at safety outside of the thick rift mist. Now that said, a basic droid is clearly not a substitute for a hunter with Grand Duke or Grand Duchess experience. So without a power boost, a simple droid would not stand a chance against all the mice in the pagoda. So you're going to need to amplify your droid's abilities by collecting a unique energy source called Energy. That was Franco's amazing play on words there, to charge your droid batteries to newfound levels of power. So you'll be constructing a droid, collecting energy to charge up your droid, send it into the pagoda, and the more energy you send it in with, I'll type it in the chat there, energy, E-N-E-R-C-H-I, energy. The more energy you send it into the pagoda with, the stronger your droid will be and the better it will fare against the mice, which comes in handy if, say, you're hunting the master of the dojo or the dojo sensei. You'll want an extremely powerful droid. You'll be able to upgrade your droid as well. While you explore the pagoda, you'll be able to find various parts to upgrade and increase both the power supply of your droid and the consumption levels in which it's consuming the energy to further boost its strength and endurance. So when you first start out, your droid will be weak and it'll have a bit of a hard time maybe even against the students, and as you upgrade and increase your droid's power, it'll do better and better against the student mice. It'll become so powerful that you'll be ready to take on the masters, then the master of the dojo, and then finally the dojo sensei. Now we're still working on the heads-up display, so it's a little bit early to share kind of screenshots of the gameplay or any demos. So hopefully we'll have maybe some more to share next week. If not, then the following week, if it's not an art feedback Friday, when the HUD kind of pulls together a little bit. It's very rough. It's in kind of an ugly state, just a lot of kind of buttons and bars floating around to help us test it so we can see what's happening, but it's far from polished and ready to show. That said, as I alluded to, there are several types of cheese in the Feroma Rift, and have a sneak peek at a few of the types of cheese. A question from the chat: will the droid be a trap or a separate component? It's a good question. It's something pretty unique to the Feroma Rift in that it's its own sort of thing. It's not, necessarily a component on your trap, but it's going to literally pick up your trap, carry it into the Feroma Rift, and do your hunting for you while you can remain safe with a remote controller to control the droid. And the more energy you charge it up with, the higher level your droid is, the more experienced hunter it becomes, and the more powerful your trap becomes as a result. In the chat, hunters are saying they would totally eat that. I don't know, that sushi's. The salmon looks a little ruly. I don't know if you want your fish to be displaying those characteristics. And the rift mist is slightly concerning as well. I don't know if that's fit for human consumption. Now, if you're familiar with Feroma, I think several of these types of cheese should seem familiar. And definitely some good guesses in the chat of what is what. Very tentacly cheese. Rift OMG. A lot of people would say they would eat this cheese. Apparently a little bit of rift mist in the air from all this cheese making me sneeze. This cheese is a little bit pointy. I think it's pretty obvious which cheese this correlates to in the regular Feroma world, the non-rift version. Somebody was asking about Rumble. Now, no spoiler. I'm not going to say this is the Rift Rumble cheese, but it's the Rift Rumble cheese. Definitely a lot of guesses for combat cheese on the previous one. I would think that's a pretty safe bet with the target on it. It kind of definitely draws inspiration from the original Feroma combat cheese. to hunt. Fang? I'm going to say Fang is attracted to the combat cheese. Belt, claw, and Fang? No, maybe claw. Maybe Fang is sushi's. I'm failing my MouseHunt trivia today. And this is a concoction of cheese turned in on itself, which process of elimination would take it to the Belt School's favorite cheese, Glutter. I like this one though. This one looks cool. And there's actually a couple more types of cheese. This isn't even all the cheese. There's a lot of cheese in the Froma Rift, so prepare your crafting books. And actually, this will lead into the feedback question, which has to do with crafting. And it's kind of come up because there is so much cheese to craft. In the Froma Rift, we are sort of even questioning whether we want crafting to be a part of it. So, as I say, in the Froma Rift, it's going to involve quite a few types of unique cheese. And the quantity of cheese types is sort of highlighted how clunky crafting can feel sometimes, because you have to micromanage various ingredients, especially the ingredients purchased from shops, that they're not even loot drops, but you're basically just spending gold to buy items. So you're just using your gold to craft those items when you kind of boil it down. And that combined with, there's quite a few systems in the game that all feel fairly similar. Potions, crafting, using shops, and some of the heads-up displays, they can all function to basically turn an item into another item, or items into another item, or more items. So whether you're buying something from the shop and it costs items, or you're crafting, which obviously consumes items, or potions consume cheese and make another type of cheese while also using up gold. And then heads-up displays, maybe loading crates onto the train, although that's a little different thematically, but again, it's taking an item from your inventory, you click a button, it consumes it, and it gives you progress. So it's kind of very, in a mechanical sense, they all feel very similar. And so I guess we have a few feedback questions about crafting. I mean, in general, too, how you feel about it. Which of those systems that I mentioned do you enjoy the most to sort of convert items into something else? So you're collecting loot drops. Do you like to use potions, crafting, shops, or heads-up displays to turn one item into another item? It's me writing down some feedback. So lots of love for crafting. People liking HUDs as well. Now, would you find it odd at all if a HUD had a button on it to say, okay, you've collected let's say take the regular Froma. Let's pretend that there was no crafting in Froma whatsoever. But there's a heads-up display in Froma and it says, oh, you have student of the cheese belt tokens. Click this button and you will be given so much cheese, and it'll take away tokens and take away gold. So instead of needing like cheesy fluffs, Invisiglue, curds and whey, you would just need gold. Yeah, some mixed feedback. Has different elements. In one way, it's a lot easier to understand. You don't need to micromanage. So for instance, say you're hunting in the Labyrinth and you're out of glowing Gruyere and you have 200 nightshade. You're like, well, I got lots of nightshade. I can craft Gruyere and I know I got lots of fungus. But then you go and you go, oh, I can't make any. Well, why not? Well, am I out of ionized salt? Am I out of living shards? Am I out of... I'm pretty sure there's some curds and whey in there. See, I can't even remember. Is there? Do I need curds in a way to craft it? Yeah, optional choice. There's a lot of hunters seem to like a combination of both, where it's crafting, but the HUD helps you craft. So there's a button to easily hit. Yeah, adds a little extra fun. That is sort of, by having the items, it's a little more thematic. So it adds a little bit of complexity, which can be confusing as well. But it does add a sort of, I don't know, neatness to it. It gamifies it a little bit more because you feel like you're actually combining something to make something else that's cool and interesting. Whereas, when it's push a button, get an item, get gold, it's a lot easier to understand. It's way easier. I just want to make 50 cheese and go about my day. So I think it's two different schools of thought. It's very sort of analytical mindset versus creative mindset of which way you lean. And I think it's a bit of a polarizing thing, as sort of evidenced by the feedback in the chat. A little polarizing. Maybe a good middle ground is there where you don't need a ton of items. It's much more simplified. Now, at least just to the next feedback question, more specifically, do you find it tedious having to purchase specific items to use a specific crafting recipe? So, like the example I gave for glowing Gruyere, you have lots of nightshade, lots of fungus, which are the items that you need to collect as loot drops. But now you need to go buy some ionized salt, or you need to buy some curds and whey. Again, very mixed feedback. Fine as long as you don't need to travel. That's interesting feedback. Yeah, lots of frustration for having to move. We've definitely tried to always put everything you would need in the shops where you're hunting now. And sort of on our to-do list has been to go back and add more cheese shops and general stores to other areas to kind of minimize how often you need to travel, so it's fewer clicks to get done what you want to do. I just realized I wrote down all those notes in the wrong feedback question. Copy and paste those up there, all right, or cut and paste rather. Brian likes traveling, resets his DHU. All right, now another related question to crafting now and having to gather items, especially those from the shop. Do you enjoy getting some shop purchase items as loot drops, as a way of sort of offsetting your cost of crafting something? So for example, ionized salt. I think that costs 450 gold from the shop. It's a little expensive, but inside of treasure chests, or I'm pretty sure some of the spring eggs, or if there's a mouse that drops ionized salt, you can sell it back to the shop for 150, or you can hold on to it and try to sort of save money next time you need to craft something, because ionized salt is used in so many recipes. Does that feel good when you get those loot drops, knowing that, hey, I'm stocked up now, I'm saving a little bit of money? Pretty unanimous good feedback on that. Yeah, loot in general being fun, that's an interesting feedback. It's something we kind of explored somewhat recently, I suppose, although in events certainly there'd be little one-off drops, but the monstrous Black Widow, for example, if you get all your rage bars up to 30, 30, 30, you get a kind of fun and exciting drop table, and while putting together that drop table, we're looking for several things that have lots of different uses. So for instance, scrap metal, radioactive sludge, although many hunters would be well stocked on that, orbs, things like that, things that lots of crafting recipes need this stuff, and so it's kind of one more way to get that stuff for free, or by hunting mice that you're hunting anyway. It's all bonus extra loot to save you either time or gold when you go to create something else. No more splintered wood unless we have a new need for it. Was one's feedback comment in the chat. Where did that go? Nope, this side. From the chat as well, the retired Minotaur was another example of adding a mouse with sort of a drop table. I don't know if there's too many crafting items in that particular drop table. There were a lot of charms, orbs, a lot of more things to help you in the labyrinth. Nightshade, fungus, minerals. Yeah, bait keep charms. Brian in the chat said they got bait keep charms, which are arguably I can't speak today, arguably some of the best charms around. And I think I already know the answer to this question, but the final one, do you like when an area, newly released area, adds new uses for things that are already in your inventory, or things that you've stockpiled over the years? But both my trip to Singapore, hunters visiting the office, even occasionally, that has seemed to be a unanimous, yes, I have all this stuff and I want to be able to do something with it. A whole lot of capital yeses. Yes. Yeah, marketplace as well was common in the chat. It is useful when you can sell your excess things as well. All right, and any other just sort of general comments in crafting versus buying something from a shop using items versus potions versus a heads-up display with a button to just convert one thing into another without using a crafting recipe at all. Crafting is good. Another topic too that's getting explored in the chat is just a way of getting rid of, using up your excess stuff that you don't need, whether it's selling it for gold, giving it to friends. Definitely something else that it's a neat thought as well. I know there's been a few areas that we've been brainstorming that would sort of incorporate everything in your inventory as a way of you can use it to, in the one area you can just use anything in your inventory. It all sort of has a generic value. It would all become useful at one point, or a general way of just melting it down into gold or selling it to a general store or something like that. That was an interesting sentiment about crafting in the chat was, it is fun but not convenient. Which kind of ties into other feedback Hunter's had about it's enjoyable when the HUD helps make crafting easier for you. So it sort of has that same fun feel, but it's not tedious or inconvenient. And certainly some concerns in the chat too about being able to give to friends new items and things. That's a little off topic, not really something we're exploring right now, but certainly we wouldn't do it with anything that kind of gated progress or sort of, let you finish an adventure in 5 seconds by just going like, here's everything you need, done the adventure, thank you. So we would definitely pick and choose wisely what things would be able to be given to friends or tradable, that sort of thing. Right, so lots of great crafting feedback. We're going to kind of take that and digest that next week as we pull together all the loose ends of the Froma Rift. As I mentioned, there's a ton of different types of cheese to craft in the Froma Rift. I'm always tempted to say cheeses. I don't know if cheeses is a word. We'll pretend that it is. A whole bunch of cheeses. Which, last but not least, is the trivia question, and it's a dead simple, easy one that I think everyone's going to get the answer for, or answer to instantly. And the trivia question is, what was the first area ever, or the first area released to use crafting? Six is incorrect. That is an incorrect guess. Froma is correct. Not the lagoon. We had a lagoon guess. Froma is correct. Bit of a trick question. Well, I guess not really. I was thinking the windmill kind of has a little bit of crafting, but that's an example where you get the cheese from the shop. You collect flour packets, and you don't craft grilled cheese. You buy grilled cheese from the shop using the flour, so it's almost like the shopkeeper is making the cheese for you, and he just needs a supply of flour. White cheddar was added after Froma. Froma was the first released area that added crafting to the game for the first time. So although white cheddar can be used at a lower level, it was not chronologically the first thing released that used crafting. My computer is slowing down immensely. It's getting toasty here. I've lost 20% of my battery in 34 minutes. There's some calculations per second going on inside of this machine. The dehydration base, I mean, unless I'm horribly mistaken, the dehydration base would have come out after Froma because Froma added crafting to the game. Although I could be horribly mistaken, it wouldn't be the first time that I was completely wrong for a trivia question. And it is oil. Yes, lantern oil in Larry's reward link. If you're watching this recorded, you can check out the tavern section of the forum where I post a summary, and I will also post Larry's reward link there as well. On that note, maybe we'll take 5 minutes of generic questions, unless the stream cuts out, in which case it'll be fewer than 5 minutes. But I see there's been a lot of general questions going on in the chat, so we get caught up on some of those. People are asking about Rift circuitry, kind of a bit of a rumor floating around on the forums with the Froma Rift coming out, and all this talk about droids and machines about potentially needing Rift circuitry. And actually, that would be a good feedback question. Kind of ties into the question about, do you like to see new uses for existing items? Because we've been playing around with a way to add Rift circuitry to the Froma Rift because it's sort of thematically appropriate. And it does add a neat little bonus if you've done the Burroughs Rift a couple times to have a little bit of a head start. That said, if we did use Rift circuitry in the Froma Rift, you would also be able to collect it there at about the same rate as the Burroughs Rift, probably. That said, it would be hard to do the Froma Rift if you haven't done the Burroughs Rift to build your traps, because if you're going through it with the Crystal Tower, I wish you luck. It will be a little painful to start. Yes, not too much, though. That would be what we were exploring as well. It was not too much you would need. And as I said there, you'd be able to collect it in the Froma Rift as well. A question about Zugzwang's Tower. A while ago we mentioned we wanted to add the ability to leave the tower without it resetting your progress. Still want to do it. No plans to when we're going to do it. But one day when we do it will be great because no area in the game will reset your progress. And it'd be nice to label that forever. Are there any more rifts after Froma? Another question. Definitely planning to continue to do them at least up to the Living Garden, probably, or before the Living Garden, because that's kind of where the real world and the Rift world come back together. Beyond that, no idea, and certainly no timeline of when the next Rift would be. When is Ronza coming? Haven't seen her. Don't know. Any plans for a Draconic area? It's certainly a power type that has a lot more room to go for adding new areas, so no concrete plans, but definitely want to add new ones in the future. Any news about the overhaul of the mice section? Unless I'm mistaken, that's already out. We just made it load faster. Unless you had something more specific. Mice page should show the effectiveness again. I wasn't aware that it doesn't. It shows, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it doesn't show the difficulty with your current setup anymore. Okay, can take down a note. Not quite sure why that was removed. Will there be an Olympics event in 2016? We would definitely like to have a way to capture some of the Olympic-themed mice, whether it's a full-blown event. I'm leaning towards no, but there'll be something to add those mice, as we're planning on something small to put the mice into the game, but not a giant event. Bring back trap effectiveness. I assume that was about the mouse page. Will the Minotaur base be balanced out? It outperforms the Fissure base in all 3 rifts in most scenarios. It depends. Against some of the weaker mice, it certainly does, but it is the absolute best and hardest base to get in the game, so with good reason is extremely powerful. Any news on Varmint Valley? We're still kind of working on what we're going to do. It's going to be a fairly large release, so no timeline, and we'll probably release something smaller before the Varmint Valley expansion comes out, because it'll take quite a while to put together. You cannot, feedback from the chat, you cannot buy all the pieces that you need for the Minotaur base on the marketplace. You do need to go through and collect items from Zocor, which you cannot get on the marketplace, which takes a little bit of time, especially because you'll probably need to also earn some equipment and some upgrades, use some oil to help get through Zocor. The Minotaur base is too cheap in relation to the trap. Well, you do need 6 of those gold, and there's certainly other items you need to purchase to craft and put together your base, so it is definitely an expensive base to craft, but it is the most powerful. Feedback from the chat that goes about use the loot to get the loot. Well, that is part of the strategy of how little of the loot you can use to get more of the loot at the end. It's a little bit like spend money to make money sort of scenario, where you have to try to minimize your costs to maximize your return. Can you do something with a physical trap type that ended in the warpath? It's pretty well done. It's about as strong as a physical trap as you're going to see, at least for quite some time. I don't see us doing a more powerful physical trap, but unless a neat idea comes around, it's pretty well as powerful as physical is going to go. And the final question, what is in the pipeline after the Feroma Rift? Well, as I said, we're putting together ideas for the Varmint Valley expansion, but that'll probably be quite some time away, so something smaller as well. We're sort of brainstorming a smaller release before the Varmint Valley expansion to have something else come out while we're putting that larger release together. And on that note, I'll say thanks for hanging out with me. Have a good weekend, everybody. Happy hunting. And remember, there's going to be a Labyrinth puzzle box mini event coming on Monday for 1 week. So you may want to kind of get into position in the Labyrinth or Zocor if you so choose so. I cannot speak today. If you choose to do so, if you find that a worthwhile strategy. Good luck hunting. And I might see you next week, or it might be Jacob. We're kind of debating. We're going to see where the Feroma Rift is. If it's ready to preview, I think we'll do a Feroma Rift preview next week. Otherwise, we will do a art feedback Friday.